First name is Lathay, Lathay. Last name is Pegues, Pegues. I am President, CEO of JohnTom's BBQ LLC. John Tom Branson is my grandpa. I was the eldest grandson. John Tom was really like my father instead of a grandpa. My dad, he lived in California for a lot of my life, a lot of my childhood. And so my grandpa he was more like my dad. I spent a lot of time around my grandpa, just being the first grandchild. My mother told me that I was only days old when my grandparents was like, bring that baby over here. So it was, from that moment on, man, I spent significant time at my grandparents' house.
My grandfather was just a very gentle man, always there. I distinctly remember one year for Christmas, he bought me a rocking horse with the springs on it, and I named it Billy Bob. So I remember that very distinctly about my grandfather. But I also remember him, always driving a clean Buick, wearing the Stacy Adams. Just a very gentle, humble man, hard worker. Didn't really take anything for granted, worked for what he had, was proud of what he had, and he loved his family. It was about good times and being there and being a part of those moments and those experiences, creating those experiences.
They were one of the foundation families here in Muncie. Family values at the top. Loyalty to the workplace, top. Treat people right, at the top. I loved him like I loved an uncle. I loved them like I loved an uncle. And when they joined our church, he treated me like, first of all, like a pastor, then as a nephew, and I loved him for that. They were strong, independent, yet cooperative.
Everything felt familiar as a family. We all felt familiar, and it was easy to love.
So John Tom Branson was born in Madison County, Mississippi. He and all of his family, siblings, their parents, they all migrated up north and landed in Indiana.
I was only about a year or a little older when they moved from Mississippi to Indianapolis. My dad thought that coming up north would be, better for the family. So he followed his father and his siblings. So that's how we, got away from or moved from Mississippi. My father was in the picture, but like I said, Daddy was always working.
So he was a hard worker. The foundry was just hard work, and that's how I remember him coming up. That's how he made his living. It was like a steel mill, and they refined different steel parts and stuff like that. So it was hard work. It was definitely hard work. I remember getting up to the aroma, waking up to the aroma of barbecue sauce in the mornings. He was an early riser, so he would get up at the break of day, so that aroma would wake you up in the morning. And he's almost done when I would wake up.
So the weekends didn't make any difference. He still got up early. And his brother would come sit on the porch, wait for the coffee, and wait for whatever Daddy was going to do. But when he got that meat ready, it was early. So it was before 8 o'clock. So can you imagine somebody getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning? But that was my father. He would get up and do his barbecue, his meat, that time of the morning. And then, of course, he'd have that sauce ready on the stove.
And he had a special sauce?
Yeah, he had a special sauce. That's why we sitting here right now. Like I told you, I spent a lot of time with my grandpa. And so there was a meat market in Muncie called Gomels, or some people pronounced it Gomels. But Gomels was the big meat market. So I remember going in there and man, they had a glass case that wrapped around the whole store, man. And it's just all kind of meat in there. And I just remember always going to Gomels with him. But then he would, while he was there, he would pick up the ingredients for his sauce. So I knew what he put in it because I was always with them, and so he would also cook with he would put fresh onions. Once he get his concoction together, he'd cut the ends off an onion, throw the whole onion in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? And let that simmer and let that taste of the onion permeate through the sauce. But my grandpa honestly had developed a sauce that everybody loved. Everybody loved him. When he would make a batch, he'd have that big old pot would be on the stove. And once he get everything mixed and stir it, he put it on low heat and just let it simmer. And then you have to go in. He send you in there to go stir it. Go stir that sauce. So you go in with a big spoon, stir that sauce for him so it don't burn. And then once he made that big stock pot of sauce, he pour them in ball jars. Put the little lid. You might have about 4 or 5 ball jars, and then you put them in the pantry. And that's where you kept the sauce. So you wanted barbecue sauce, go to the pantry. Get that big ball jar out, take that lid off, pour you a little bit. But man, that sauce is the best sauce I ever tasted. And we never thought, I don't think anyone ever thought one day he may be gone and what's gonna happen with the sauce. Nobody ever thought of that. So when he passed away, sauce went with him.
I'm glad that Lethea seen how important that was to his grandfather. Lethea spent a lot of time with my grandfather. He was the first grandchild, and so it was like, it's funny. He would come in on a Friday night or a Saturday, and he was looking for Lethea on the weekend. Lethea spent most of the weekends with us, his dad's family. And it was like, my father, he was a Southern man, and he'd say, Esme, where's that baby? Let's go get that baby. So he always wanted him around. And so I'm glad that he was able to pick up the importance of his grandfather and the love for his barbecue and his sauce. Yeah.
On my quest to crack the code, I was onto something that wasn't his, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just stay on this road because whatever I'm creating is pretty good. That took me 5 years. From when the first day I said, I'm gonna try to make my grandpa's sauce, to I got a finished product that I was like, this is good. It was almost 5 years. Now, I don't want people to think it was 5 straight years, because I would step away from it, I may step away from it for a couple months. But then, one weekend I may be like, okay, let me try it again. So I had my little notebook where I would write, every time I tried, I would write, measure out, and I would write what I did. When I got done, I'd taste it, have my wife taste it, have a couple people taste it. What you think? They give me feedback. And then I was like, okay, all right, yeah, it might be a little too sweet, or it needs something else. So then my next batch, I try to tweak it. I kept doing that until I tweaked it, until I had something that I felt like this was good. Terrell and I had already been kind of, formulating ideas on how we're going to launch this business. And I told Terrell, I said, there's one more person I want to add to the mix on this. And it was Rodney.
Rodney Robinson.
And what do you do?
Business development for JohnTom's BBQ, 1/3 owner.
Got it. So tell me a little bit about JohnTom's barbecue sauce. How did it get started?
Well, John Tom Branson is a legend. It got started with my business partners, Lethea Begis and Terrell Cooper, approached me and asked me that I want to be a part of this barbecue sauce. Now, first, Lethea came to me and said, "Hey, Rod, I want you to be part of this company." And my first expression was barbecue sauce. In my mind, is there any money in that? So I said, you know what? We had a 10-year anniversary for our fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. We were going down to Miami. I said, well, bring the sauce down there. I'll test it out. So we get down there. There's about 8 or 9 of our fraternity brothers were in the hotel room. He breaks open the jar, passes it around to people. They're sticking their finger in, tasting. I didn't want to taste it just yet. I wanted to see what the appeal was, their expression. And so when I saw how it was real favorable, I'm thinking, okay, this is something that could be marketable. Let me get on this. So I whispered over to him and said, hey man, I'm in. So that's how it got started. I recall when Lethea was telling me how he started to come about to build the sauce. And he told me all the iterations he went through. And at the time it was him and his wife, and I think Jared, his oldest son, was born. But she was his tester. So he told me, Rod, man, I'm going on year 4. I've done this for 5 or 6 years, and I failed a lot of times. Finally came up with something he liked and wanted to put it on the market. So to me, that showed me that he was committed and dedicated and passionate about what he was trying to portray on his grandfather. He didn't quite get it right, but he found something that was it was good enough to name it after him. And to me, that pride and that passion, man, that it makes me emotional thinking about that. Just him taking something that's taken off the way it has, and to see his name behind it. I know I'm off script for a second, but I was just asking him yesterday. Every moment when we have good moments, we landed an account, or we solidified a really good conversation that's going to lead us to the next goal. I asked him, I said just yesterday, I said, listen, Lethea, how do you feel to know that your grandfather's name is on these bottles and these products, and we're talking with these organizations, and now they're saying this is the best sauce they ever had, and we want to use it here, and we want not just a sauce, but they love you and us. How does that make you feel? He gives me a different answer every time, but there's all centered around excitement, joy, pride, and he just wishes grandfather was here to see that.
I have those moments when I really have to pause and just look where we started. Selling sauce out of our trunks just to people we knew, no accounts, nothing like that. I mean, the way we started was, it's your typical story. You're trying to start something from scratch with no knowledge, really. We just had sauce in the bottle. Okay, now what? We gotta sell it. We gotta make money. So we starting off just selling loose bottles, literally, out of our trunk. Hey man, $5 a bottle. That's what we did. When I sit and think about that for something I created in my kitchen, man, surreal, man. Like that is the epitome of the American dream.
It's wonderful.
It's out of this world. It is dynamite. It is good.
I would say steaks, my ribs, of course, but I can basically use it for about anything. It's so versatile, especially the mustard. It's so versatile. You can use it on cold cuts. It's that versatile.
Okay.
Yeah.
You use the sauce on your salad?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
How did that happen? Tell me the story of how that happened.
My wife and I are two different people, because I know you know that, huh? She likes one kind of sauce, I like another. Okay. I ran out of mine, and I don't particularly like hers. And we was having this big salad. We bought them. I won't tell you where we bought them at, but we had it. And I said, I'm going to try this. So I put some of that sauce on my salad, and it was stupendous. And I've been eating it on my salad. It was Sorry about that, young man.
No, that's a good one. That is very, very good. Yeah, that is very good.
Yes.
Anything
Hey,
else?
can I add something? I keep it in the refrigerator and some in the cabinet, some in the garage. The one in the refrigerator, I just get a tablespoon, pour it in the tablespoon, and eat it or drink it. And man, it's that good to me. Now, if y'all publish this, I'm going to be, never mind.